Well, hello there. So in my last video, we were having a conversation and suddenly we were talking about the suit of your partner's Mercury card and how it interacts with your suit. And that's going to have a whole lot to do with like your whole hand, the planetary intersections of those cards, da-da-da-da-da. But I thought while we were waiting for people, we could do a little Osho Zen spread for everybody. I've said it again, and I've said it before, and I'll say it again. Energies are just weird. It's just really unpredictable how it's going to feel. I skipped one of my 5-HTPs, which had the dosage wired to address my mild depression, and I skipped a dose, and this morning I was like, oh no, I have to catch up. So for me, it's biochemical, but I don't know. We've just been through a huge astrological kind of passage, and man, we're in a new chapter for sure. Okay, so what is that new chapter about? Moment to moment. So really grounding down into the present moment. Traveling, which is very similar. Like there's nowhere to get to. It's about the journey beyond illusion. So looking within, these are all about just really tending to your own journey. And I've heard a lot of people say lately that they just are not motivated to find out what's going on in the outer world right now. They just really want to tend to their own journey and their own growth. And I couldn't agree more. I know it seems a little anticlimactic, but it's like those things are taking care of themselves. And it just feels like such a web of indiscernible shit that's happening. And, so this is just really about being with yourself moment to moment, and look how similar this is. You're on a journey, just trust, let it unfold beyond illusion, look within for insight, look within to see beyond the illusion of the matrix and all that. And we have a very dynamic card on the bottom, probably the most dynamic card. This leads to a breakthrough. So this is very much what I've been doing in my pods, I should say called to do. Hey, sending blessings to you, Sharon. Yeah, are you asking for us to send you blessings, or are you sending blessings to us? Thank you very much. That's very good. Okay, so does anybody, okay, my guides are telling me to just start talking about this communication thing with my daughter's card. Today is Saturday. Yes, it is. Is time just a little strange for you? It's like having personal Mandela effects. And now you know how Bewitched would always go tinka 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 to like make something magic happen. Well, apparently now there's no tinka tinka tinka. Isn't that weird? Like, and even her daughter Tabitha would do this. It's like, yeah, that it's like everyone's gonna go, oh my god. Okay, so that's weird. Okay, so we can look at ascending and descending Mercury cards, but my descending is the 5 of spades. So spades communicate. Okay, so in Jeannie, this is true for you too. Queen of spades and Mercury. Sharon, you've got Queen of hearts in Mercury. And we will be talking about hearts with communication. But anyway, the spade way of communicating is, I mean, despite the fact that I'm really esoteric, there's a kind of practicality, definitely a get to the point kind of energy. And what I've noticed with myself It's partly because it's a 5, but like when you're with a spade, they don't like small talk. So Sharon, tell us about this. It's like small talk is just like such a waste of time, and it's like get to the point. And I find myself being really impatient in conversation very often because that spade is like, let's just like encase the whole picture and just talk about, what's real, what's next. It's actually kind of Capricorn. So my daughter has a diamond in descending Mercury, and she's much more likely to talk about and think about, communicate about what's, values. It's more about beliefs. It's about not just how I feel emotionally about something, but more to do with, hey, Jeannie's back, more to do with what you're passionate about. So it's like the diamond. Yes, I'm so glad you made it. So the diamond, and Jeannie and I are diamonds. We definitely are oriented towards like what we feel very strongly about. One of the communication styles of the diamond is to sermonize. And I'm seeing that with my daughter's communication. Yeah, small talk, ick. Um, the diamond is going to look at the world through the filter of what should be happening. And I see that very much with my daughter, and it kind of contributes to the battles with all the voices about how I'm screwing up or whatever. So that's kind of a diamond way of communicating. So anyway, okay, let's talk about the heart. Because ascending, I have the 7 of hearts. Sharon has the Queen of hearts. Descending. So I have noticed with the lower vibration of the heart communication. Oh, interesting. Yeah, tell us more about that, Sharon. Your son is a 2 of hearts, and he has a heart in his descending Mercury, a spade in his ascending. So when he's in a good place, able to look at the bigger picture, but maybe a little fatalistically, since that's the 9 of spades. I don't know. But the heart, I've noticed, tends to sort of like they get wrapped up kind of in the immediate feeling surrounding what they're talking about. And I've found there's a possibility of it being the most myopic in terms of being able to talk about what's going on. All the diamond cards have spade in Mercury except for the ace and king of diamonds. Holy cow. That is quite the observation. That's interesting because I have felt that with the king of diamonds, kind of like an inability to really have a meeting of the minds and connect. And they've got a heart in their communication center, and the ace of diamonds has another diamond. And wanting to be heard in that, so you can figure out what I'm going through over here. Yes, that's the heart communication. That's the motivation. That's a good thing to talk about. What's the motivation? What am I hoping to achieve through communication? And if you've got a heart there, it's kind of about like empathy. I want you to feel what I'm feeling. I want you to be in compassion. I want you to understand this on an emotional level. And with the king of diamonds, I think they tend to resist that. I think that's where they live, but I think they tend to kind of resist that because it's a king, it's masculine, it's about being in control, figuring it out for everybody else, this kind of feeling of responsibility. But underneath it all, they've just got a real stream of emotion going, perhaps in the place of logic at times. So, what is club communication like? Well, club communication is definitely going to focus on what I think, what I think, what I think, what I think. So my husband's planetary ruler, the 9 of hearts, he's got that 7 of clubs in Mercury, which I do too, as a 9 of hearts. And I've noticed a tendency at times to get into a real conceptual realm, and it's just so exhausting after a while. I mean, it's fun. It's sort of recreational, but it's also like we love to figure out mysteries. That 7 of clubs is about figuring out mysteries, and we definitely that's probably our favorite genre of TV shows to watch, is to try to solve the mystery. But sometimes it can get really bogged down in like a philosophical thing, almost like you're sitting beside the whole thing and getting wrapped up in a mental exercise. So, hi, honey.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing that video on Mercury card communication styles.
You just messing it up talking?
You're not messing it up.
What's that?
Well, how would you describe your communication style? What's the most important thing you want to get out of communication?
Passion. Somebody's passion, it's like you're watching them light up like a fish on bait.
That's interesting. That's very interesting. So his ascending, it's a very good fit. His ascending Mercury is the 5 of hearts. And I nicknamed it the bartender card because people are just a feast to them. And so when he's in service mode, like when he was a fly fishing guide and he's having communications with everybody, the main message of the 5 of hearts is, what do I want? What do you want? Hey, Grumpy, nice to see you again. And so that makes perfect sense that when he's communicating with others in a form of service, he's wanting to tap into, what do you want? What do you really, really want? Because that's kind of the motivation behind that card. Let's just get down to the self and what you really want. Dayla, hi. I've been thinking about you too. Okay, so Grumpy asks, what impact will communication have for those located on lines or columns of Mercury? Very good question. So the vertical column of Mercury, if you look at all these cards, 3 of hearts, 7 of hearts, King of hearts, 6 of diamonds, Queen of spades, and 4 of hearts, they all have a very, well, how would you describe it? It's really strong. Okay, Dayla is the 7 of hearts. I have a Queen of Diamonds personality card. Sharon has the Queen of Spades personality. So does Jeannie, Queen of Diamonds. Okay, let me catch up with, because clubs in general are communication. There does seem to be around their akin regards to communication, but it's also their gift. Yeah, it's true. Clubs have a gift of communication. Okay, so that's a very good question, Grumpy. So the vertical column of Mercury, I've just kind of organically come to the conclusion that the vertical lines, I've just labeled them divine Mercury, and the horizontal is like earth plane Mercury. So we can look at that because all of the Mercury cards across the top, wound and a gift. Sorry, okay. Because clubs in general are communication, there does seem to be a wound there akin regards to communication, but it's also their gift. Very well said. As usual, Jeannie. Yeah, well, and what's the wound for a diamond? To feel like they're not valuable. What's the wound of a spade? To feel that they're not effective. The wound of a heart, that they're abandoned, maybe. So yeah, that's very interesting. What is the wound of the suit? That's another whole video, right? So, okay, yeah, so the horizontal Mercury, they seem to have, so the columns have inner communications. What do you mean by that, Grumpy? The vertical column of Mercury, they're just really strong. Like they and the line more talkative? I would say yes. I would say definitely a need to process externally. There's a lot going on. It's rapid, very rapid paced kind of thought process. Maybe other people finding it difficult to keep up with them at times, but there's a sense of leadership and responsibility in regard to communication. I mean, spiritual communication. Ooh, that's a very good point. When they go to the spiritual zone, well, it's definitely true for Dela, Seven of Hearts. I mean, communicating with guides, giving sessions where you're communicating with their guides, going to the Akashic records, looking at past lives, multidimensional experiences, definitely having a beat into that. Six of Diamonds do tend to be very psychic, whether they know it or not. Queen of Diamonds, I would say, profoundly intuitive, and they can go to incredible depths because they have such a difficult hand. So there's a lot of growth involved. That's my vocation all the way. Right. Totally. So when you're in that Queen of Spades, Sharon, that place of authority and the role that you're here to fulfill, very much that the spiritual life coach connecting somebody to the through line of their own essential truth. Yeah. So Sharon, I'm going to do a little plug for her. She's got this, I call it the machine. She's crafted this thing that pulls in multiple disciplines, puts in your birth information, and what comes out is really profound. And she uses draconian astrology, which I've never heard of before, but vastly different interpretations and placements. It's like, I don't have any Gemini, but with this, it's like I'm a Gemini. And the description of it was just absolutely amazing. So if you're interested in getting one of those things, contact Sharon. So, okay, let's talk about the horizontal Mercury line. Seven of Heart is Mercury, it's Mercury Venus. So seems plausible to be a medium. Yeah, a medium for people since it's Mercury Venus, like the heart, the relationship connection through relationship. I'm kind of back. Sorry. Yeah, so because it's Mercury Venus for the Seven of Hearts. Yeah, no worries. I mean, it just kind of highlights the fact that you made that mistake. It just kind of highlights exactly what is that Mercury Venus intersection. So I think it's where you find yourself. That's where you find yourself is the horizontal plane. This is just kind of how I am. And then the vertical would be what you're called to grow into. So the Ace of Hearts or Ace of Clubs is in that Mercury. They find themselves in a mental zone, but their calling is the Venus to become more relational. It's called the lonely Ace of Clubs. So the horizontal, this is another huge insight coming through. The horizontal is where you just sort of find yourself. So for Five of Diamonds, they just find themselves in the Saturn line. They're like, okay, I'm a pragmatist. I expect life to be difficult. I'm prepared. I grow. I've got this Capricorn edge to me that just knows how to move forward. And I'm always asking, what's the practical thing to do next? She's called to the Neptune experience of that. How can we draw on the spiritual resources to facilitate that? How can we bring insight, creativity, the whole realm of imagination into that practical movement? So that's fascinating. Okay, Six of Spades, you find yourself in the Neptune line horizontally, naturally in the realm of looking at possibility, imagination, but the vertical, you are called to Uranus, letting go, non-attachment, Christ consciousness. This is fascinating. So I'm Venus, so it's like called to Venus, find my Venus. It's true. I'm very generous and I'm very selfish. I mean, I'm just all those polarities in relationship. Grumpy says Seven of Heart. Oh wait. Hi from a seven of diamonds. Hi. Mercury rules the nervous system and the breath. If you look at the Mercury line, the row across, they tend to deal with a lot of anxiety and neurological issues and issues with the ways the nervous system sends and receives information. But this presents more when unbalanced, because when balanced, these people make all the connections and learn at lightning speed. Yeah, so you naturally come by the Neptune energy, Sharon, yes. And Jeannie, extremely concise about the horizontal Mercury line. Yes, they do tend to deal with a lot of anxiety and just a very, the rapidity of Gemini energy. It's like, it's just like going at high speed. Also, this applies to birth cards that have those cards in the Mercury position. Yeah, like King of Spades, they can have problems with anxiety because their Mercury card is in Mercury. And I've noticed with my mom, there was a tendency towards overthinking and just like, woo, um, getting down into the body is the way to resolve that. Get past the head. Let's see. So everybody in the Mercury line, yeah, and they can learn very, very quickly. So they're kind of like that horizontal Mercury line is really Mercury on steroids, isn't it? They just embody Mercury. They're here to work with the giving and receiving of information, and their own nervous systems. And none exemplifies this more than the Queen of Clubs. Why would that be? Because it's horizontal Mars. Maybe they're called to put that energy into a passionate direction for a practical outcome. It's like, yes, there's all this thought and all this hyped up nervous system, but the Mars says, okay, well, let's get going then. And that's one resolution to all of that. And man, they are just absolutely tireless, those Queen of Clubs. Yes, but Mercury also rules Virgo. Their Mercury is characterized differently. Yes, how so, Grumpy? Virgo is more service oriented, maybe. Right. Gemini and Virgo, definitely different. Jeannie, weigh in on that one. The Mars card, um, the Mars needs that card to aim at something, not just do, but direct their energy. Grumpy, I would have been interested to see which books would be more inclined toward Gemini and which toward Virgo. Do you mean books or do you mean something else? Maybe books that talk about the different things. But anyway, yeah, have we exhausted that topic? I'm sure we haven't, but cards, that's what I thought. Cards would be more inclined towards Gemini and which towards Virgo. Right, and same with Taurus and Libra. Um, both ruled by Virgo. I mean by Venus, yes, but very different. Libra is more intellectual. Taurus is much more sensual, sensory. Very detailed in principles in Virgo. In Gemini, it's superficial. Yeah, I can definitely see on that. I mean, the Virgo is more into perfecting, and if they go deep enough, it's about perfecting the self, and if they go even deeper, it's realizing the inherent perfection of self. But it's that process, that drive towards perfecting, and maybe the pain that causes that allows them to go deeper, whereas Gemini it's like it just wants stimulation and is happy to stay on the surface and just wants to go from the next to the next to the next. Although the Gemini energy that I've got is very much associated with nurture and service. I think it's what it's combined with, but Gemini is about truth, right? Maybe Virgo is more about process, but Gemini is about finding the truth. The Virgo Mercurials are more subject to physically feeling the weight of the anxiety in the physical body because Virgo rules the house of health, work, and routine. Oh, that's a really good point. And Gemini rules what? The house of, it's the third house, right? So it's movement, communication, commuting, connection. It feels like Gemini is a piece of equipment that's necessary that can start everything else, like hone in on the curiosity, and then all the other energies will, it's like it sits out front, like radar, picking up on something, and then the other energies can follow through. The Virgo Mercurial archetype is really good at compartmentalizing. Yeah, talk about that more, Jeannie. I don't know if I'm good at compartmentalizing, and I'm Virgo rising, but I don't know. Also, those of you who know about astrology, feel free to kind of highlight some of the things that we might be experiencing based on this mammoth series of astrological events. Grumpy, so which cards in this system would be inclined towards Gemini type communication and which towards Virgo, in your opinion? Good question. I'm just kind of pulling up people who are more with surface conversation and trying to figure out what that means. I don't know a lot of people who are into surface communication, but that's not necessarily the only style of communicating. I mean, that's not the only aspect of the Gemini ruled person. God, I'm kind of drawing a blank on that one, Grumpy. Where the Gemini one is all about absorbing information. Gemini rules the lungs, the inhale part. So it takes the info whereas the opposite, Sag, Jupiter, which is directly across from it, is the expansion and the exhale. Ooh, I really like that. Gemini Mercury is about alchemizing. Yes, and they do it very quickly. My son is a Gemini, and he's a mechanic, and he can alchemize so many bits of information really quickly and then know what to do about it. So the Six of Clubs maybe is more the Gemini ruled type. I don't know. They seem really fluid between being able to be surfacey or go deep. They're just the card of polarity, multiple polarities. Jeannie, that's why we take in info in Gemini and share and expand it in Sag. That's interesting because my son is a Gemini and my daughter is a Sag. And I think they really challenge each other. And Crystal's definitely much more about depth. Not that Sebastian can't go there. He eventually does, but he wants to lighten her up, and she's always trying to get him to be more serious. It's fun to watch. Okay, so does anybody want to talk about their particular relationship and how communication styles are challenged by there being a different suit? So, Jeannie, sorry, I'm going to pick on you. Your partner is the 10 of clubs, right? And so his communication style would be, or we could talk about your twin 8 of diamonds, because their Mercury is the king of spades and your Mercury is the queen of spades. So the communication with your sons would be very interesting to look at in terms of being in sync with each other, bearing a sense of responsibility for what needs to be communicated. Okay, now with Virgo, it looks at all the details, while Pisces, its opposing sign, sees the big picture but had a hard time with the details. You know, I never thought about the opposite of Virgo, but yeah, my Saturn is in Pisces, which opposes my rising, which is 27 degrees Virgo. So it's like, oh, there's always been this battle between Saturn and Neptune, but they're finding their way. So they are a part of one axis. Gemini, Sagittarius, love them or hate them is the way I look at it. Again, it's a Jupiter and Mercury dynamic. Right. Specificity versus expansion. I'm about to walk down the street with each of them holding hands, so I'm going to be listening more till I get home. Oh, that is so cute. So yeah, one on each side. That is so cute. Moving forward, what a picture of the parent-child dynamic and having the spade communication. Okay, so any other relationship you want to look at, like your primary relationship, what is their Mercury card? And we can look at all aspects of it. So for my husband, if I look at his Mercury, it's the 3 of spades, but it's Saturn, Jupiter. My 5 of spades is Venus, Mars. So I'm going to be more inclined to want to connect relationally and emotionally with that Venus energy. He's more about the Venus, or the Jupiter Saturn is more about practicality, more kind of like the more outer planets. Yeah, it's interesting. Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. So it's interesting in our communication. He does tend to get to the answer very quickly. And it takes me, I'm like, oh, I need to be in this process. And it's like, now I'm like, oh, you're jumping ahead of me instead of you're wrong. It's like, give me time to get there. Got to work through this Venus and Mars energy. And then, oh, yeah, now I see what you saw instantaneously. So that's a dynamic in our communication. So yeah, looking at the planetary intersections of your communication card is a really important thing. Yeah, so how's it going, you guys? What else is it? What do you want me to draw cards on? I can draw a card for anybody. I can draw an Osho card, or I can draw a playing card. And you can ask anything about outer events. Oh, look at this. 8 of clubs is on the top of the deck and Jack of diamonds is at the bottom. These are my 2 kids. That is wild. Okay, so I'm going to prepare to draw one of these cards. Do we have any volunteers? Draw a card for you. You don't have to ask me the question. You can just hold it in your mind. Let's try this. Hold a question in your mind. All of you. And I'll draw a card. Okay, one more. Yes, it's okay if it's a yes-no question. We're going to draw a card. Malatak Catalan. I see what you did there. 7 of clubs. With the 7 of clubs, we both have that 5 of diamonds. Okay. 4 of hearts is the answer to the question in your mind. So, Catalan, we'll get back to you. Yeah, do you have a specific question? I mean, that 7 of clubs is just so juicy. And you know how much I love the 5 of diamonds. So are you the Seven of Clubs? I guess that'd be my first question. So Four of Hearts, the answer lies somewhere in the realm of finding emotional equilibrium, finding a sense of security and safety within. Let's draw another answer card for your silent questions. Queen of Diamonds. What is most important to you? How are you called to speak the truth into situations where that may be difficult? And what is your service? Oh, you are both Seven of Clubs. Okay. And when you say both, who's both? Are you there with someone else? Oh, Seven of Clubs with a Seven of Clubs. Both have the Five of Diamonds in Mercury. Okay, I got it. So if you're with somebody who is your birth card, look at what's different to get the contrasts. Like male, female will be more ruled by the king, queen, or jack of their suit. If it's a child, the ace represents the inner child style of communication, which what do you call it? Archetype are you sitting in any given moment? Are you in your inner child, but they're in their parent energy? How might that influence communication? But anyway, do the Seven of Clubs together find themselves talking very heatedly and passionately about what should happen and what's important? And should is the operating word. What should we do? Okay, you and your man are both Seven of Clubs. He's Cancer and I'm Sag. Okay, so you're going to lean back into that Moon card, which is the Nine of Hearts. Much more feeling oriented, perhaps inner child, where the priority is compassion and love and connection. But he's Jupiter, so Mercury, Venus, Mars. Jupiter, Nine of Diamonds, is his planetary ruler. So the diamond is going to even emphasize more of what should happen, what's important. But they're both nines, which are Saturn to each other. But that's interesting. That nine energy tends to look at the big picture. So you're bringing different qualities of the big picture to each other. So emotionally, you're saying, but let's look at the fallout. Let's look at the people involved. What about the children? And his is going to be more about maybe finances or, I don't know, values, maybe a little bit more into the physical realm. That's fascinating. Thank you for sharing that. Right, and with my husband and I both inhabiting the Nine of Hearts because it's his planetary ruler and I'm the Seven of Diamonds, so it's the soul card. I'm a Leo, so I'm going to inhabit that Nine of Hearts, whereas he's a Libra, so he's going to inhabit the Five of Diamonds. Yeah, that fits. Because I'm about like the emotional big picture and connecting, and the Five of Diamonds is he can be kind of scattered and definitely bring that ADD quality into the communication. Oh, Nine of Diamonds is yours. He's got the Nine of Hearts. Oh, well, that is an even better combination because women just tend to be more emotionally intelligent, right? So he's bringing that emotional quality to the relationship, or maybe a tendency to pout or kind of go within. And I'm realizing this about myself too. There's a possibility of withholding and kind of squirreling down into yourself, and there's the disappearing energy of the nine. I don't want to share, I don't want to express. So maybe communication takes on kind of a pouting energy. Oh, that's definitely true with my husband, and it just like triggers the hell out of me. Probably because I do the same thing. I tend to get into a resentment, all the reasons I have to be resentful kind of cycle. And I think that's a hard thing, like storing up all these reasons that you have to be disgruntled. I guess that's pouting. Yeah. And here's my Virgo Mercury nature. Like, okay, what's next? What's next? I tend to be, even though I might communicate slowly sometimes, it's just there's always this urgency for the next thing, the next thing. Yeah, trying to actually hear my guides and what's next. I'm going to throw from a different deck. So get a question in your mind. And let me know if that other read was relevant for your question. Four of Hearts, emotional security, Queen of Diamonds, speaking the truth. Okay, what's your question? I'm going to throw a card from the Enchanted Map Oracle card deck. By the way, I finished my Jesus cards deck and submitted it to a publishing company called Inspired Projects, I think it's called. I love the list of books and cards that they've published. I'm like, oh, this is right where mine fits. Christian, esoteric, Buddhist, Taoist, Aramaic. Yeah, that's the Jesus cards. I'm just so excited and at peace about it. Okay, so what is your question? Now I'm going to throw a card. I like this deck because it has a bit more of a, like, what should we do about it kind of energy. So follow the leader. This is, you are qualified to lead. You know stuff. And I think it's about getting comfortable being followed. I know, like, it's not comfortable to say I have da-da-da followers, because I don't know, it just kind of feels weird, but it's a form of service. And if you're in a leadership position, you're being watched, you're being observed, and people are drawing wisdom maybe through you, but really through themselves. They're looking at a projection and everything you represent, and it's reflecting something back to them about themselves. Oh, you use this deck too, Sharon. So they're really accessing their own inner teacher, and your field of information is maybe challenging them to expand their field of information. The only reason we ever follow someone is because they're teaching alignment with our own knowing, but it's a little bigger and there's room to expand. And you can feel that. And so if somebody has drawn you into their orbit because you can do that for them for a period of time, there's always a give and take. There's always an exchange. And if you're in a leadership position, your growth path has just taken on a different location, so to speak, but it's still your learning and development path. Okay, what is another answer to your question? And then I think I'm going to close it out. Oh, listening. Well, the answer is in listening more and more deeply. See the little notes on the card? I like to ask the question, can you hear the song that the present moment is singing? So that's a real slowing down into, what is this moment telling me? What am I hearing energetically from what's around me and from what's within me? So these pods, if you're interested in joining the pods, I'm on the verge of starting a new go-around. One of my groups is going to be ongoing because it's so valuable. We just meet for about an hour each week, and we take turns with me just kind of helping somebody go inside and guiding them intuitively based on all the information I'm getting about what they're experiencing. It's just been phenomenal, just profound breakthroughs, and I'm watching these women just deepen, have transformational breakthroughs, a peace of mind and a clarity and security that has just kind of stepped in. Also the skills day to day to be able to be present with yourself more quickly in a given situation, just learning to tend. That's what the Sensing Inside groups are all about. If you're interested in joining, Well, you've got my email. It's in the description below. You know how to find me by now. And texting me is always the quickest route. That sounds really good. Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's so good. So yeah, and then the other group is like taking a breather until we dive in with maybe some new people. Um, and and it's really affordable. I mean, the pilot group, well, okay, let me just say it this way. I would see if $40 a session is comfortable for people. So you're paying $40 to get an hour, and while you're watching me work with other people, and it's no more than 3 people plus me in a group, when you're watching me work with them, it's just incredible how a container gets established. Themes come through. You tune into each other. You know, it's a dynamic container, and then as you're tuning into yourself, which is a lesson in itself to say, how attuned to myself can I be while I'm watching this other person go through some really deep shit? Because we tend to leave ourselves if somebody is suffering, and it's like, can you be in both places? Can you be in compassion but hold your ground? And we know that when we're suffering, the greatest comfort comes from people who are very grounded and centered. They're holding on to their center. They're not, whoa, rushing to caretake you, because that's a selfish motivation. I mean, as sweet as it is, and we all do it, staying centered in your own experience while someone's going through something is a skill all in itself. So yeah, I feel pretty settled on that $40 a session, and it's just once a week. And then there's a text thread, and we kind of keep up with each other just via text. So yeah, I think I'll be starting those. I think I'll be trying to start, like, I'll assemble the group this coming week, and then the following week we'll find a time that works for everybody. Um, Okay. Well, I think that's it for today. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you for your contributions, your patience with my streaming. Maybe I'll just use my phone next time and that'll be a lot better. But anyway, have a really great day. Bye.